If you've arrived here now, it doesn't matter whether you're lying in bed, settled on the couch, or simply trying to slow down after a long day. This is an invitation to enter a different kind of space, a space where science speaks softly, where questions matter more than immediate answers, and where consciousness, for a few moments, can rest while contemplating itself. This is not a place of haste. It is a place of quiet curiosity, a silent corner where quantum physics meets the human mind, and where the greatest mystery of existence begins to be explored with care, respect, and humility. Today, we begin a journey that touches one of the most extraordinary ideas in contemporary science: the possibility that human consciousness is connected to the very fundamental structure of the universe through quantum processes occurring within the brain. An idea that, just a few decades ago, would have been dismissed as science fiction, but which is now beginning to be seriously investigated in laboratories around the world. As you listen to these words, something remarkable may be happening inside your mind. At microscopic scales, far smaller than anything we can see with the naked eye, internal structures within your neurons may be carrying out processes that challenge the explanations of classical physics. Processes that, according to long-held assumptions, should not exist in a warm, wet, and biologically active environment like the human brain. And yet, growing evidence suggests that they persist. If this is true, the implications are profound. It would mean that consciousness is not merely a byproduct of the electrical activity of neurons, nor something rigidly confined within the skull. It could mean that the mind is, in some way, intertwined with the quantum field that underlies all reality. This idea invites us to rethink what it means to be human, not merely as complex biological organisms, but as local expressions of something far greater. A phenomenon in which mind, matter, and universe are not separate, but connected at deeper levels than we imagine. And if this theme feels too intense for a moment of rest, don't worry. The goal here is not to stimulate anxiety or excessive excitement, but to allow the mind to wander gently through possibilities that expand our perception of what is real. If, by chance, you remain awake reflecting on these ideas, perhaps that is a small price to pay for contemplating one of the greatest enigmas of existence. Before we dive deeper, it's worth remembering that this kind of exploration does not seek definitive answers. Science advances precisely because it recognizes its limits. What we will traverse here is a territory where ancient philosophical questions meet modern tools from physics, neuroscience, and information theory. Take a deep breath. Allow the body to relax a little more. There is no need to understand everything immediately. Just follow along. The question that guides us is simple to formulate, but incredibly difficult to answer. How does a physical organ, composed of cells, electrical impulses, and chemical reactions, generate the subjective experience of being alive? How do the colors you see, the sounds you hear, the emotions you feel, and above all, the intimate sense of being you, arise? For centuries, philosophers and scientists have tried to answer this. More recently, this challenge has become known as the hard problem of consciousness. It is not merely about explaining how the brain processes information, recognizes patterns, or makes decisions. These are complex problems, but in principle solvable. The true enigma is explaining why these processes are accompanied by an inner experience. Why is there something it is like to be you, rather than just a biological system reacting to stimuli? For a long time, the dominant explanation was that consciousness emerges from the collective activity of billions of neurons functioning as an extremely complex network. According to this view, the mind would be an emergent phenomenon, much like wetness emerges from water molecules or traffic emerges from the movement of individual cars. But this explanation has limits. It describes correlations, not deep causes. It shows what happens in the brain when we are conscious, but it does not explain why this should generate a subjective experience. Why couldn't the same processing occur without there being anyone feeling it from the inside? This gap led some researchers to look beyond classical physics. If known laws are not sufficient to explain consciousness, perhaps it is necessary to turn to the most fundamental laws of nature, those that govern the quantum world. Quantum mechanics describes reality at extremely small scales, where particles do not behave like solid objects, but like probabilities, where something can exist in multiple states at once, where systems can remain connected across distance in ways that defy intuition. For decades, it was believed that these quantum effects were too fragile to play any role in biology. Heat and environmental noise were thought to destroy quantum coherence almost instantly. The brain, in particular, seemed like the last place such phenomena could survive. But nature proved more ingenious than expected. Research in quantum biology has revealed that fundamental life processes already exploit quantum effects efficiently. Photosynthesis, for example, uses quantum superposition to transfer energy with remarkable efficiency. Certain bird species appear to use quantum entanglement to navigate Earth's magnetic fields. Even the human sense of smell may involve quantum tunneling. These discoveries opened a previously unthinkable possibility. If life already uses quantum effects in other contexts, perhaps the brain does as well. And perhaps, at that deep level, lies the key to understanding consciousness. Here we enter truly revolutionary territory. A bold proposal, suggesting that the human mind is not merely the product of classical neural circuits, but involves organized quantum processes occurring within specific neuronal structures. This hypothesis marks the beginning of a paradigm shift, an attempt to connect subjective experience to the most fundamental structure of reality. And it is precisely from this point that our journey continues. The investigation into the possibility of quantum consciousness does not arise out of nowhere. It is born from growing discomfort with traditional explanations of the mind. If everything we are could be explained solely by electrical impulses, chemical reactions, and classical neural networks, then subjective experience, what we feel when we are alive, should be nothing more than a mechanical side effect. But that explanation is unsatisfying. It describes function, but not meaning, processing, but not presence. This impasse led some scientists to consider that perhaps the brain operates at a deeper level than previously imagined, a level where classical physics is no longer sufficient and quantum mechanics becomes essential. From this questioning emerged one of the most controversial and fascinating theories in modern science: the idea that consciousness may arise from organized quantum processes within the brain. At the center of this proposal are microscopic structures called microtubules. They exist inside neurons and are part of the cellular cytoskeleton, helping maintain cell shape and transport substances internally. For a long time, this was believed to be their only function. However, some researchers began to suspect that microtubules might play a much deeper role, acting as systems capable of sustaining coherent quantum states. This idea took shape when a mathematical physicist and an anesthesiologist from completely different fields realized they shared the same unease. To them, consciousness seemed to require something beyond classical computation, something that explained not just information processing, but conscious experience itself. Thus was born the theory known as orchestrated objective reduction, which proposes that conscious events arise from the collapse of quantum states occurring in neuronal microtubules. Initially, this hypothesis was met with strong skepticism. The main objection was simple and seemingly decisive. The brain is warm, wet, and biologically chaotic, an environment hostile to delicate quantum states, which usually require extremely low temperatures and strict isolation. How could something so fragile survive inside the human brain? For years, this criticism seemed to end the discussion, but gradually, new discoveries began to change the picture. Research in quantum biology demonstrated that living systems can indeed protect and utilize quantum coherence under conditions once thought impossible. nature appeared to have found ways to overcome limitations that human laboratories still struggle with. As a result, the idea of quantum processes in the brain ceased to seem absurd and became, at the very least, plausible. Studies began to directly investigate microtubules, searching for signs of quantum coherence, specific vibrations, and behaviors that could not be explained by classical physics alone. The results were surprising. Experiments showed that microtubules can sustain coherent states for far longer than previously predicted. In quantum terms, this is an eternity long enough for these states to influence larger neuronal processes and potentially contribute to conscious experience. These findings suggest that microtubules are not merely passive structures, but active components of an extraordinarily sophisticated system. A system that may function as a kind of biological quantum computer, operating in parallel with classical neural circuits. Perhaps one of the most intriguing lines of evidence comes from the study of anesthesia. Anesthetics are substances that reliably and reversibly shut down consciousness. If what I'm saying makes sense to you, and you feel ready to deepen this experience, I've left a more complete material in the pinned comment. You don't need to look at it now. Just remember it when the time feels right. For a long time, they were believed to act solely by altering communication between neurons. However, recent research indicates that these substances interact directly with microtubules, interfering with their possible quantum states. When microtubules are artificially stabilized, the effects of anesthesia are delayed. This suggests that loss of consciousness may be directly linked to the disruption of these internal quantum processes. If consciousness were purely classical, altering microtubules should not have such a specific effect. This type of evidence does not definitively prove the theory, but it creates a connection that is difficult to ignore between quantum processes and conscious states. Consciousness appears to disappear when quantum coherence is disrupted and to return when it is restored. If this is correct, then the human mind would not be merely a product of electrical activity between neurons, but the result of a deeper phenomenon where organized quantum processes integrate with classical neural activity to produce discrete moments of conscious experience. This also offers a possible explanation for the unity of consciousness. Despite the brain being composed of billions of separate neurons, our conscious experience is integrated. We do not perceive the world as disconnected fragments, but as a continuous whole. Quantum entanglement could be the mechanism that binds different regions of the brain into a single coherent experience. From this perspective, consciousness ceases to be localized at a specific point and is instead understood as an integrated field of information, a distributed but unified process, sustained by phenomena that transcend classical physics. If consciousness truly depends on quantum processes, then its implications extend far beyond neuroscience. They touch fundamental questions of identity, free will, and even the relationship between mind and universe. Consciousness may not be confined to the brain in the way we have always imagined. This possibility naturally leads to an even bolder question. If quantum processes allow non-local connections, could consciousness, in some way, extend beyond the individual? Could different regions of the brain, or even different brains, share quantum states in a meaningful way? It is at this point that the investigation begins to cross the traditional boundaries of the science of mind and approach something even deeper. Something that suggests consciousness may be entangled not only with itself, but with the very structure of the universe. And it is exactly this frontier that we will explore next. When one accepts the possibility that consciousness is linked to quantum processes, a radical shift occurs in how reality itself is understood. The mind is no longer merely an internal product of the brain, but something that interacts with fundamental levels of the universe. This does not mean abandoning science, but expanding it. It means recognizing that classical physics explains external functioning, while quantum physics may explain inner experience. One of the most intriguing aspects of quantum mechanics is the role of the observer. At the quantum level, Reality does not behave as something fixed and defined until it is observed. Before that, it exists as a set of probabilities. Only at the moment of observation does the quantum state collapse, turning possibility into concrete reality. This raises a profound question. What exactly is the role of consciousness in this process? If consciousness is involved in the collapse of the wave function, then it is not merely a passive spectator of the universe, but an active participant. Reality, in this sense, would not be entirely independent of the observer, but defined through the interaction between observer and observed. This suggests that mind and world are far more interconnected than the traditional materialist view allows. Within this perspective, each conscious experience can be seen as a specific quantum event, a moment in which multiple possibilities are reduced to a single lived experience. This reduction does not occur randomly, but follows organized, coherent patterns influenced by the internal structure of the conscious system, that is, by the mind itself. This helps explain why consciousness seems to occur in moments, not as a perfectly smooth, continuous flow, but as a succession of integrated instants. Each conscious instant would correspond to an organized quantum event, followed by another, creating the illusion of continuity. The experience of now would, in fact, be an extremely rapid sequence of these collapses. This view also offers a new way to understand decision-making. Rather than decisions being merely the result of deterministic chains of cause and effect, they could involve choices among multiple quantum possibilities. This does not mean everything is random, but that there is genuine space for indeterminacy, creativity, and novelty. It is here that the concept of free will gains a new scientific foundation. If the mind operates at a quantum level, then it is not completely locked into predetermined trajectories. There is room for choices that are neither fully predictable nor fully determined by the past. Consciousness could influence which possibility becomes reality. This does not turn humans into absolute creators of reality, but into co-creators, participants in the process by which the world manifests. External reality would still obey physical laws, but the way those laws are realized within certain limits could be influenced by consciousness. This idea helps explain why different mental states produce such distinct experiences of reality. Two people can live the same external situation and yet experience it in completely different ways, not only psychologically, but possibly at a subtle physical level, through how their consciousness interacts with the field of possibilities. Another essential point is that, in quantum mechanics, systems can become entangled. When this happens, the state of one part of the system is directly linked to the state of another, regardless of distance. If conscious processes involve entanglement, this suggests that different parts of the brain can operate as an integrated unit, even when physically separated. This reinforces the idea that consciousness is not localized at a specific point, but distributed in an organized way, a network in which spatial separation loses significance. The unity of conscious experience could arise precisely from this internal entanglement, which keeps all parts synchronized. This hypothesis also raises profound questions about the limits of consciousness. If quantum entanglement does not depend on spatial proximity, to what extent is the mind confined to the body? This is not a mystical claim, but a legitimate question within quantum physics itself. If particles can remain connected across distance, why would conscious processes be completely isolated? Although these ideas are still under investigation, they offer a new conceptual map, one in which mind, brain, and universe are not separate entities, but different expressions of the same fundamental process. Consciousness, in this context, would not be an accident of evolution, but an intrinsic feature of reality organized at certain levels of complexity. This leads us to reconsider the origin of consciousness itself. Perhaps it does not arise only when the brain reaches a certain level of complexity, but when specific quantum conditions are coherently organized. The brain, then, would not create consciousness from nothing, but function as an amplifier, an organizer, a mediator. This shifts the classic question from how does matter generate mind to how does mind express itself through matter. Instead of consciousness emerging from matter, matter could be the medium through which consciousness manifests in specific forms. This conceptual inversion does not solve all mysteries, but it opens new avenues of investigation. It allows science and subjective experience to engage in dialogue without one denying the other. Consciousness ceases to be an insoluble problem and becomes a complex yet investigable phenomenon when viewed through a broader lens. As we move in this direction, an inevitable consequence arises. If consciousness is deeply linked to the quantum structure of reality, then understanding the mind is also understanding the universe at a deeper level, not only how it works, but how it is experienced. This is precisely what brings us to the next stage of analysis, where consciousness ceases to be merely an individual phenomenon and begins to be considered in relation to the whole. When consciousness is understood as a phenomenon that may operate at the quantum level, the rigid separation between the individual and the universe begins to weaken. The mind is no longer seen as an isolated process inside the brain, but as part of a larger field of interaction. This does not mean the individual disappears, but that their consciousness may be connected to broader structures than previously imagined. Within this perspective, the notion of entanglement takes on an even deeper meaning. If different regions of the brain can remain synchronized through quantum processes, then unified conscious experience can arise from this internal coherence. The feeling of being a continuous self would not depend solely on classical electrical signals, but on a quantum organization that maintains experience integrated moment by moment. This integration helps explain why consciousness does not feel fragmented, even when the brain performs many tasks simultaneously. Thoughts, emotions, memories, and sensory perceptions arise as parts of a single experiential field. Quantum coherence could function as the invisible thread that connects everything into one conscious experience. Extending this idea, the possibility emerges that consciousness is not only internally integrated, but also related to a broader external field. If quantum processes do not respect classical spatial limits, then the mind may, at certain levels, interact with structures beyond the physical body. This hypothesis does not claim direct or mystical communication, but suggests that the boundaries of consciousness may be more flexible than traditional models allow. This view also sheds new light on common human experiences, such as deep empathy, feelings of connection with others or with the environment, and states in which the sense of separation seems to diminish. Rather than being dismissed as purely subjective, these experiences may reflect real changes in how consciousness organizes itself and relates to the surrounding field. Another central idea is that consciousness may exist in different degrees of coherence. In everyday states, coherence may be limited and fragmented. In states of deep focus, contemplation, or sustained attention, the mind's internal organization may become more integrated. This does not create something new, but allows consciousness to operate in closer alignment with its own fundamental structure. From this standpoint, consciousness is no longer static. It is understood as a dynamic process that can expand or contract depending on internal and external conditions. The brain, in this model, acts as a regulator of this dynamic, facilitating or limiting the degree of conscious integration. This approach also helps explain why changes in brain structure or function affect conscious experience, without necessarily denying that consciousness may have a deeper basis. The brain would not be the ultimate source of the mind, but the medium through which it expresses itself in specific ways. Changes in that medium alter the form of experience, just as an instrument alters the sound produced, without being the source of the music itself. When consciousness is viewed this way, a new understanding of the role of human experience in the universe emerges. The mind is not merely a passive reflection of reality, but an active interface between the individual and the surrounding field of possibilities. Each conscious experience becomes a unique interaction between internal structure and external context. This also reinforces the idea that experienced reality is not an exact copy of an entirely independent, objective world. It is partly constructed through the interaction between consciousness and environment. Perception does not simply reveal the world. It organizes it according to the capacities and limits of the conscious system. This construction is neither arbitrary nor illusory, but functional. It allows the individual to navigate reality coherently. However, it implies that different conscious systems may construct slightly different realities, even while sharing the same physical environment. Consciousness, therefore, does not merely perceive the world. It participates in how it is lived. As this understanding deepens, it becomes evident that studying consciousness is not just studying the brain, but investigating a fundamental relationship between mind, matter, and information. What we call reality may be the ongoing result of this relationship, updated at each conscious moment. This perspective also raises important questions about identity. If consciousness is an integrated and dynamic process, then the self is not a fixed entity, but a stable pattern that persists over time. A pattern that can change, reorganize, and evolve, while still being recognized as the same. This view does not diminish the importance of the individual. On the contrary, it places the individual within a larger context, where each conscious experience has value because it represents a unique expression of a broader field. Each mind becomes a particular way for the universe to experience itself. It is from this idea that the deepest implications of quantum consciousness can be explored, not only for science, but for how we understand our own existence. And it is exactly this that leads us to the next part, where these implications reach the most fundamental level of reality. When all these ideas are brought together, a vision of consciousness emerges that goes beyond simple and comfortable explanations. It no longer appears as an accidental byproduct of matter, but as something intimately linked to the very structure of reality. The mind ceases to be something that merely observes the universe and becomes something that actively participates in it. At this point, the relationship between consciousness and reality becomes inseparable. Conscious experience does not occur in a fully ready and independent world, but in a field of possibilities that is updated at every moment of perception. What we call lived reality arises from the constant interaction between what is potentially available and the act of perceiving. If this video made sense to you, in the previous one we talked about practical techniques that teach the exact way to visualize and materialize your goals. If that's something that resonates with you, the video is on your screen now. If this message truly resonated with you, if you felt that quiet inner shift, that sense that your mind is ready for something greater, I left a resource in the pinned comment that goes deeper into this process. I only recommend it for those who feel genuinely ready to accelerate their results, but follow it in your own time. If it calls to you, you'll find it there.